Oh, there he goes.
Yay! Yay! Okay, I wasn't sure if it was going to start this time. Okay, gotta love technical stuff, right? That's the fun part about this. Okay, anyway, welcome everybody. Hi, I'm Samantha Studebaker-Carl, broadcasting to you live from beautiful Southwest Georgia. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. This morning we're going to talk about the secret to staying motivated that nobody's talking about, and we're going to discuss chapter 11 in the book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter. So if you guys are, if you haven't read the chapter, you know, open up the book and you can kind of follow along with some of what we're talking about. Maybe you'll find some of the quotes that we discuss and whatnot. And but before we get going, I want to go ahead and introduce my friends and co-hosts and welcome those of you who are watching. And by the way, if you are, I don't know where you are on the web watching, but jump over to SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. That is our live event page where you can participate in the conversation so that we'll see it. If you comment someplace else, I may not see it. So with that, let's go ahead and just everybody introduce themselves. And I'm going to go ahead and repost the mobile watch link, the YouTube link, just in case we've got people that are watching from mobile. So jump on out.
Well, good morning. Sandy Root here in sunny Miami Beach, and good to see you all. Missed you, Jason. I saw all your pictures on your travels. Looked like you had an awesome time. And I have my coffee. I quit, but not today, so I'm excited.
Oh my gosh, girl, you know how much I'm missing my coffee. Oh gosh. Good morning, everyone. This is Catherine Clement in Boulder, Colorado, now severely missing her coffee, even worse. And we're glad you joined us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christina Irvin. I'm here in Northeast Tennessee. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay. I'm here in Northeast Tennessee, and I am actually excited to be back. I missed you guys last week. I was away at a marketing conference, so I'm glad to be back today.
Are you there with us, Jason? Or are you frozen? Okay, well, if you can hear us, you can jump out when you get an opportunity. Okay, all right. Well, Jason's broadcasting from a mobile device, and so he may have a little bit of, he's out there on the beach, guys. So he may have some issues with the signal or you know, whatever with the mobile app. But anyway, let me just jump over to the page and welcome those of you who are hanging out with us. Morning, Christopher. Morning, Dan. How are you? Morning, Donna. Morning, Paula. Glad to have everybody hanging out with us this morning. By the way, if you have not already posted on the page and you're watching, go ahead and just say, hey, let us know you're out there. And at any point in time, add to the conversation. You know, if you have a thought or opinion or an insight on anything that we're talking about, or you want to share something related to this chapter, then just share a comment there on the live event page, and we'll be sure and add you into the conversation. Okay, so let's see. Did we lose Jason? Oh, poor guy. Morning, Julia. I saw you just jump on there. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so let's jump into this. You know, this particular chapter is all about motivation. It says it's the motivation myth. You know, I mean, a lot of times people, you know, they go to a motivational seminar, they read a motivational book, or they get together with some other folks and they come up with a mastermind. They're like, hey, let's go make this thing happen. And what happens, you know, after you leave that motivational seminar, or you put down the book, or you stop talking to your people, then all of a sudden you're just like, I don't know if I can really achieve that, right? You know? And so then you kind of fall out of that motivation. You get excited and energetic about doing something, and then you get home and all of a sudden you're not into it like you thought you were. And so we're going to talk about a little bit why that happens and what you can do about it. So who wants to start the conversation this morning? Let's just kind of talk about this chapter and what, you know, what you thought was maybe the biggest takeaway, or, you know, what were your first thoughts about this chapter. Who wants to go first?
And hop out. When I was looking through it, I had read it originally, this chapter, a few weeks ago, but I just skimmed through it a little bit last night, and it reminded me of, I think a few of you out here know that I went to Tony Robbins in March, and it was such an amazing seminar, and I was so pumped after it, and then, I was like, we have these workbooks to take home and exercises to do to keep us in that energy, and I was in New York, so I ended up staying there and visiting friends and family for a while, and it was just like through that time I fell out of it. It was like the energy was gone, and then when I got back home to Miami, I still had the workbook, but then life took over, and it was like I sort of forgot about it, and then a month later I'm like, I haven't even done these exercises. It was like all this stuff that I learned and these tools that I took, it's just like that motivation was gone, and the excitement that I was feeling in that event. And so, one day I finally opened the workbook that I got and said, oh, wow, yeah, and then started, doing some of the exercises again. But I guess we'll discuss it more as we go on in the next hour, but, it really takes that internal motivation to keep things going. We can go to these external things that motivate us, but in the end it comes to us doing it ourselves, because we can't rely on an outside source to keep us motivated, because that fizzles away if life comes up and something bumps us off track. We are the ones responsible to keep ourselves on track with that. So those are my beginning thoughts.
Jason, are you there now? Your picture's moving. I think you're there. I can't hear you though.
Is anybody else? I can hear you, Christina. And Sandy,
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. How about I take it for a second, and then, because I was hearing a couple of Sandys, I was like, what's going on? You know what, Sandy, you bring up a good point, because I just got back from an event too, and I was actually thinking about this last night. I think it's a combination of things. I think, one, we've got more years of crap, negative self-talk and the world telling us, negative stuff or whatever. We got years of that built up, and so we go to one event that probably lasts only 2-3 days, right? And we think that that's going to just take away everything. Well, it can't, right? Because you got all those years versus just a couple of days, right? So I think that's one thing. I think the second thing is very key that you really pointed on, Sandy, is that you've got to dig into that stuff quickly. Like, you can't let it stop at the event. You've got to take it from that event, and you've got to consistently be doing the things that you were doing in that event to get it in you, see? Because you get just a little surface glimpse of it when you're at the event, because you're caught up in the high of it. You're caught up in all of the other people around you and their energy, so your vibration is high on it. But it's when you get back home, right? Or when you leave that event that you tend to, trip back into those negative self-talks, those doubts, those postponing things that all go back to how much you're valuing yourself in the end, right? Because if you're valuing yourself to the highest level, literally, you make time to implement those things. And then I think a third thing is your vision of yourself, the person that you want to be, right? A lot of times, you might have a big why, you're doing something that means a lot to you, but you've yet to envision the person that you can become, the person that you want to become, the things that you will be doing when you become that person. Will you be walking across stages? How many thousands of people will you be talking to? How many lives will you be positively affecting? So I think the combination of those three things is probably the reason why we tend to slip back into the old habits again.
All right. Can you hear me now? I think I got this thing figured out. I got a light box myself, and then hit the then I can have access to the volume. So, anyways, sorry about that, everybody. It's great to be here, and that is so true, Christina. I mean, that's really, we definitely got to consider all that. This chapter in this book I've found to be so powerful, and and so helpful in digging down and getting to those things that motivate us or demotivate us, And one thing I'd like to say is, when tackling this, though, I hope everyone has a good grasp on how to be grateful for things, because you really do need to be. I think that sort of can help us use this, because it can offset the turbulence that we experience when digging into those dark places. We need to be grateful so that we can get through that and make some headway. So just wanted a point that I wanted to bring up. So I'll give it back to you guys.
I couldn't agree more, Jason. Just looking back when I first came online and just the challenges of learning the technical things, of how to do all these things, and how many times I was just ripping my hair out, but every one of those little challenges, if we're just grateful instead of getting so wired and upset over those challenges, if we're just grateful for them and think about, what is this preparing me for in the future? Like when I'm learning new programs or some of the education that I'm learning right now, it's a little bit mind-boggling, but I just keep thinking, how is this going to benefit me in the future? And I do exactly what you said, Christina. I'm always envisioning where I want to be, or where I'm already at. In my mind, I'm already there. I'm already feeling those things, seeing those things, smelling those things. Sandy, we're on the stage, baby. You and I'm telling you. So, I see these things, and but these events, they're wonderful things to go to. Like if you're in a company, any company, and they're having a live event, you should try to get there if at all possible, because they're amazing, and you do get to connect with the other people in the company. And like you said, Christina, while you're there, think about, some of you may or may not be churchgoers, but think about if you ever were in a church and there was all those people gathered together, or maybe it's a spiritual. I go to a lot of like energy, spiritual, way out there kind of stuff. Anyway, when you're in this group of people and everybody's vibrating at this very high level, it does affect your vibration, and it affects, like you realize more of who you are when you're in that energy field. And so everything seems possible, but then when you go home and you're in your own little energy field, then all that old stuff starts creeping in on you. But those events are so powerful because some people just can't dream, and those events get people dreaming, and that's a really good thing. But like you said, Sandy, if you don't go home and implement what you were taught, then you're right back to the same old stuff. So basically what this chapter says is, what we all knew too, is you have to go back to self-talk, because that's one of the ways that you start to reprogram and start working in more of your own self-motivation. Because you can record your self-talk and play it while you're sleeping, but it works much better if you say it. That's helpful to play it while you're sleeping, but it also works to say these things or write them down. So I like writing down, actually, because if you think about in grade school, how many times you had to write the multiplication tables or say the multiplication tables. We had to write a lot of things, and I think that helps. Some people saying or writing, it really helps set it in a little bit deeper. So yeah, if you buy the course, but then you get totally blindsided by life, and that's what happens. Stuff happens, and then suddenly you're out of your routine. So with your self-talk, you need to be really consistent with that until it starts playing automatically. And there will come a time where that starts playing automatically, and it's excuse me, not so much of an effort to have to do it.
Yeah, that is true. That the effort that it takes to remind yourself of that from combating that self-talk. Something that someone said, I don't even remember who it was at the event, or I would certainly give them credit for it, but let me just say it wasn't me. That they recorded their ideal day and their vision. They basically recorded their vision, right? And so every night before they go to sleep, they put their phone on airplane mode and they play back that vision, right? So that their subconscious can go to work on it when they're asleep. I have to be honest, Catherine. I have just recently come around to that whole actually writing things down kind of thing. So I think that to the idea of recording your voice and your vision and listening to that at night and writing it down, right? And saying it to yourself, and do that consistently for like at least 30 to 90 days, that would probably make a very big shift. It's something that I'm going to try.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I started doing that like a couple of years ago. First starting with Napoleon Hill's, what's it called, the manifesto thing. I had it recorded, I had it written down, and every morning when I would wake up, I would read it, listen to it, and speak it all at the same time, and do that when I went to bed, and it was really powerful. And then I ended up writing my own vision statement and my own affirmations and afformations, and it was like 3 pages long, but I did it every morning religiously, and it really shifted things in my life. I mean, it got me to Miami, I'm sure, so, and living the dream of living on the beach and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's very powerful. That's a good point.
Let me just share a couple comments from the page. Dan says, I so agree, Sandy. Having coming back from an event last night, the motivation also has waned some. So I'm here to help keep motivated, and that is perfect timing for this subject. You know, I was just thinking about that when you made that comment, Dan. Is that so true? Isn't it kind of, what is it, serendipitous or synchronistic or whatever you want to say? You know, when things like that come together and we end up, you know, talking about a subject that goes right along with what everybody's experiencing right now. I think that's so powerful. Let's see. Tina, oh yeah. Oh, you were asking, that's a good question. When you were at the event, were you thinking that you could implement the things they were saying, or did you have a bit of doubt? She was asking that of Dan, but let's kind of ask that to everybody. I mean, since many of us have, or many of you have just recently been to an event, let's just pose that question. You know, when you were at the event and they were motivating, or they were saying these things, you know, did you feel like you were going to take right off with that, or did you have some doubt that was creeping in there? Who wants to jump out on that?
Like Catherine said, when you're, sorry. Oh, okay. Like what Catherine was saying before, for me, it's like when you're in that group, and you know, for people who can't normally dream, like being in those things, I think is a lot of times for people, it's like the first time that they realize that there's this greater thing out there. There's that they can have these dreams and believe that they can come true, and just be in that amazing energy. I'm just getting tingles thinking about that energy that you get in events when you feel that anything is possible. And for me, that's never really been a problem. When I'm in those events, I'm just like, yeah, I can create anything. And so for me, it's definitely easy to see all this sorts of possibilities in events. So yeah, I love going to events because it's just that connection with other people, like Catherine was saying. It just brings it to a whole new level, like the dreams and the visions and we can have. So
When you think about it, though, a lot of times you're at the events and you're like, oh yeah, I can do that. Let me just speak for me personally, because there's something that I've noticed about myself in the past versus what I have noticed about myself these days, now that I've done a lot of mindset work and I've really worked on my disciplines and stuff, I can say that I would be at an event and I would feel all tingly and like, yeah, I can do this, yeah, I can do this. But then in the back of my mind, it was, girl, please, you're not gonna do this when you get home. Like you don't have the time to do all this. That's so woo-woo. Like nobody does that in real life. That's not reality. Blah 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 blah. Right? Nowadays, I'm like, this is so done. I don't even know why I hadn't thought about that before. Right? And so I have just a new swag about me. Right? But what I noticed is that when I think back to the old Christina, I was at those events with my history playing in my mind louder than what the person on stage was saying, right? And it's really easy for that to happen because you, just like your family and friends and environment has a perception of you based on your history, so do you. And when you allow that to play louder at the events than the people talking, boy, that makes it hard to combat that negative self-chatter, that's for sure. I don't know what you guys think, but that's been my experience.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And he makes a comment. I was just kind of looking for it in this chapter where he was talking about, imagine the difference between, having a motivational seminar for somebody who has never worked on themselves and has all this self-doubt versus the person who has done a lot of personal development. You can expect that they're going to get a better reaction from that, right? And just like what you were saying is that, when you went earlier, and before you had worked on yourself, you had a whole lot more self-doubt, but it was literally louder than the motivational speakers. And yet now you've worked on yourself, you've done this personal development, you've worked on your self-talk, you've been masterminding with others, and that's made that's a key thing right there. Is to remember that you've got a lot of stuff that you've got to overcome, a lot of this pre-programming that you need to work on. And I love how Sandy was talking about, how she was listening to her major definite purpose or mission statement, and then, over time that started to really sink in, and I just started reading a new book. It's called it's by Og Mandino, The Greatest Salesman in the World. I think that's what it's called. And in there, one of the things that it talks about doing is for 30 days is reading each scroll, if you will, from the book over and over and over for a 30-day period of time to get those lessons and those things just planted in your brain and in your subconscious mind. And I think that that's a key thing right there. But let me just jump over here and read what Julia wrote. Let's see. Julia says, hey, Sandy and Christina, I agree with other factors affecting our ability to stay motivated. I was constantly slipping back into the old habits, and now I have piles of workbooks that I want to finish. What was suggested to me was to set up a routine. As long as I stay committed to that routine and not overwhelm myself, works for me very well. Sticking to the routine is getting me closer to my goal, which makes me smile. That's awesome, Julie, and I think that's a great point, is to set yourself up with some new habits. So let's see what's Christopher say. He says, I'm so grateful to meet Jason this last week, and this is super cool and polite gentleman. I'm proud to have met Jason. Thank you. Awesome, Christopher. So glad to have you on here. Okay, so let's jump out.
Hey, Samantha, before you go on, Dan made a comment that I think is really kind of very fitting, a point in this conversation where he was talking about needing to find a routine that works for him. And I think that's very important because a lot of times you've got people, so-called gurus and leaders and all this stuff telling you what a great daily method of operation looks like. Okay, and I'm just going to say, for me, I disagree with the notion that you've got 2 or 3 standard daily methods of operations that is the end-all be-all, because everybody's different. And so I think Dan makes a great point of really doing the work to determine what's best for you personally. For me, I now am starting to crave a little more routine and stuff. As my business is growing, I realize it's absolutely necessary so that I can be efficient and effective and serve to the level that people deserve for me to serve them and that I deserve for my business to be, right? I recognize the need for that kind of routine. But I also know that I'm a person that those ultra rigid routines where I've got 15 minutes and it's got to always start at 9 a.m. Like, that's not going to work for the kid because that will make me inactive. I will rebel.
I completely agree with you on that, Christina, because, anytime I get myself set and I'm like, you have to do this, then I instantly am like rebelling against it for whatever reason. I don't know what it is in my brain that's like, no, I refuse, But when I just kind of let it flow and, I have like a general routine or certain things that I want to kind of get done throughout the day and that sort of thing, then it flows so much easier. It's like when you force it or you try and force it, it makes it harder. Right.
Hey, I'd like to jump out with that. Yeah, you have a really good point there. With when we feel like it's forced upon us from external sources, we do have that kind of rebelliousness that comes out, I think. And he talks about this, and I'd like to really maybe give just do a quick read on this to give people an idea of where we're coming from here. Here in like about the third or fourth paragraph in, he says all external motivation is temporary. External motivation is the kind that makes that may wake you up, but it will not keep you awake for long. Internal motivation is the motivation which comes to you from the outside. It may influence you to make a change, but it cannot make a change for you. And it cannot keep you from drifting off course when the motivator is gone. And, he talks about the mental coach, and the coach being, something you need to cultivate from within so that he's rooting you on, or your subconscious is rooting you on with the right inner speak, And just a moment, I want to do a quick shout out for Chris Camp. It was really great to see you, and also Dan. It was great to meet you out there, buddy. Really great to see everybody. And the masterminding, point that was made earlier is so true. We need to be around each other and be masterminding with like-minded people that can help encourage us through this stuff. To kind of close out on what I was saying, and that paragraph that I just read. He also talks about the external motivation being, the opposite kind of the internal motivation, and that, by having it come from within, we can kind of pull that up and make it happen at any point in time with this new type of dialogue that we're learning. And I think that is really, really kind of the key to having a power over this and a power over our feelings that we can snap into a point where we can get into a different state of mind, And with that, I would ask, well, what are the motivators that you actually respond to from within? Do you actually take action from a point of fear and of anger or frustration, or are you able to take action from a point of happiness? Or does actual happiness and contentment make you lazy? I think that's important to ask ourselves so that we understand what we as individuals react to for ourselves, and by doing that, then we can use that motivator or that angle of motivation to spur us into our actions and keep us going. I'd like to hear what you guys have to think about that.
I want to add real quick. Dan Smith posted something in the pre-mastermind discussion. I think goes right along with this, with that internal versus external motivation. And so I want to read that. We kind of talked about that as well. He says there has to be a cause that runs deeper than just money, because I think there's a lot of people that, they start out being motivated by money and then they realize, like, oh, that's not going to happen, right? So then he says some kind of cause that motivates a person to go above and beyond what most people are comfortable with or go out on a limb to do something out of the ordinary that has a threat of some kind. Okay, I believe that true motivation comes from a spiritual source and is a true motivation that gives people life motivation that doesn't come from outside forces. It has to be a higher cause that is part of your own reason for living, so that when you find the big enough why that truly motivates you from within, and couple with positive self-talk, that you can literally find any motivation and can do literally anything that you set your mind to. And of course, he quotes a Bible verse, Mark 11:12, and says, "And Jesus said to him, if you can, all things are possible to him who believes." This passage has been a challenge for me for many years, and has challenged me that according to this passage is my belief is where it should be, then I can truly do anything I can believe I can do. I believe this is where true motivation comes from. I think that that's an important thing to mention there, on that the internal motivation side, or a higher cause, if you will. And I was kind of thinking along the lines of, what are your inner core values? What is it that's most important to you? Because one of the things that I felt like with big motivational events and stuff like that, it's so cool, to see all these people that have had some really great successes. They've come from being like really poor, and then they've become ultra rich, and they've achieved all these awesome things. So it gives you that sense of, okay, well, if they can do it, I should be able to do it, right? But sometimes I feel like it seems it's so far out there, so far ultra beyond any possible capabilities, that it's like, what in the world? How can I possibly reach that, right? And so it's like wondering, how do you go from this, wherever you are right now in your life, to this ultra big difference? And it seems like this just gaping huge gap of like this vast chasm that you're like trying to cut across, right? I don't know, what do you guys think?
So let me clarify. The question is, how do you go from where you are to where you want to be? Is that pretty much the question?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I admit I'm working off of very little sleep, so it's probably me.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But anyway, yeah, so let's kind of talk about that. I mean, how do you, I think we've got echo. There we go. That's better. Yeah, how do you as an individual kind of bridge that gap, if you will? And of course, I have my own ideas. I think we all have our own ideas of how do you get from way down here to way up there. And so what are your guys' thoughts on that? How do you, what are your personal thoughts on how do you get going?
I personally don't feel like you can. I don't think that powering through is a method to success, because eventually you're going to power through, you keep suppressing all this pressure, right? You're going to be a volcano that erupts, and you revert back to those negative things, those things that you didn't want, the person that you're trying to grow from, right? So I don't think the power through is the way. I think that you have to get to the root of where all that started, so that you can start to rewire from your root. Because if you don't, it's like cutting off a weed in a garden. That weed's going to come pop back up because it's got roots down in there. But if you pull it from the root, right, then it doesn't pop back up. So I really think you have to do the work to really explore and get to the root of that thing. Now, what does that mean? That means that you're going to have to A, humble yourself, B, you're going to have to get a little bit of a little courage, a little self-courage going, and C, I think having that overwhelming point in your life where you can't breathe until you do it. I think you got to have all of those things, because if you're not so overwhelmingly committed to really growing, you'll let that negativity come back in there, and you won't do the work.
Well, unfortunately for most of us, the pressure, like this chapter points out, the pressure comes from the outside. And I know I've certainly witnessed that in my own life. As far as going to college, the reason I went to college was because my kids were starving. I mean, I had pressure from the outside. I had pain that was pushing me and motivating me to do something. And as far as, learning all this internet stuff and even being on this hangout today, this all started because I fell off the back of a horse and couldn't be an RN anymore, and I had to find a completely different way to be. So I decided at some point, and I mean, I've been doing motivation work for a long time, but I decided I really needed to motivate myself instead of having to have these outside things motivate me like that. So sometimes I think if you can take that first step and show the universe that you're going for something anyway, then maybe they don't push quite as hard.
I'd like to jump out real quick. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, great. Yeah, I totally believe in what Christine is saying and what you're saying, Catherine. I think we need to build that foundation and look at, take a moment. If we're serious about your personal development and being able to have that energy and excitement come from within, that gratefulness for life and all that, we do need to take a look at our foundation and see, step into those moments that have, been a setback for us, step into our failures and actually, when we can, taking responsibility, we can take responsibility for certain things, and then that gives us actual power over the situation. And these techniques and tricks we're learning in this book, that gives us power. And getting excited about this newfound power that we have in our lives can be one motivator, one thing that we can look forward to, and just know that it's not going to come quick, but you've got to do it to be consistent. It's like what Christine said early on, was that we have this stuff from years and years and years ingrained in into our subconscious, and it's like a broken record, and it needs to be reprogrammed, and that's going to take some time. But the tools are in this book and all around you if you're masterminding with the right people. So just stay consistent and know that it's possible.
I think Catherine made a great point too in the comments. It's important to understand too who, like, your personality and what your needs are, right? Too often, another thing that we tend to take in from the world is those cues or those spoken rules that says it's not okay to say, no, I need this. Like these three things I have to have. And this is me. I'm not talking about you, but I got to have these three things. And so whatever I'm involved in has to give me these things. It's like being unapologetic about being you fully and authentically you is so unaccepted, right? But I think that it's key. That's a great point, Catherine. I'm glad you brought it up, because it is important to understand. Like you said, you're a blue kind of personality. You need things to be fun. Me, I want things to be fun, but I want to feel fulfilled and passionate about it. And it's okay. That stuff that's really heady, that makes me get all scientific thinking, like, I'm not down with that. It doesn't really jive with me. Not that I'm not a smart person, but I just like things to be kind of loose and free flowing, right? So it's very important to understand yourself. And I also think something that was brought up at the event that I was at last weekend was that in a moment, and this is Cesar Rodriguez, and in the moment when you're having that moment, like, I don't know, not feeling confident, think to yourself, a question is, what would I do if I was 10 times bolder, right? What would I do if I was 10 times bolder? Would I go up to this person and talk to them, or would I go ahead and book this trip on this cruise by myself or something like that? Whatever it is, would you do it? And here's the key. You got to take the first steps toward it, right? Because when you take that first step, next thing you know, you're taking a second step, and then the third step, and you got a little swag about you, you got a little confidence going on, you're building momentum, right? So a lot of times in that moment, if you just take the first steps toward it, you'll build some momentum and confidence that'll help you carry it through.
Yeah, that's a great point about taking the first step. I've talked to people who say, like, how do you write your vision statement, and I can't even get started with it and stuff like that. And I'm like, you just have to do it. I mean, I don't like writing, but when I'll find a moment of inspiration. Maybe it's sitting off in the back of my mind, like I want to write my vision down, and then I don't do it, and then it just comes to this point where it's like, the inspiration comes, so I just jump on it and write the thing out. And sometimes I have to force myself to keep writing because I don't like writing, but because I found that this works for me when I'm reading and writing and listening. So I do that part, and then I make it fun. Like Catherine said, I'm a blue as well, so I make it fun, and I put my body into things, and I enunciate things, and I get excited about things when I'm doing them. So yeah, it's definitely taking that first step. I think a lot of people put that off and keep putting that off and putting that off. But once you get that first step, as hard as it could sometimes be to just be like, do it, then after that it becomes easier and easier, and just keep putting those little steps, because it's things that we're not used to initially. If we're used to just living life on default, or having a negative mindset, our brain will keep saying, well, I'll do it later, but just like Christina said, that first step is so important, and then things start to flow after that.
I so agree with that. I'm sorry, Jason, did you want to jump out? Go ahead.
Do it now.
Do what?
Do it now, right, Sandy? I mean, you're so right. That is a habit. We have this habit of putting things off. That's something that's been programmed into us, and we have the power to to just decide, make the decision that from now on, when we have a thought or an idea to do something, just do it right then and there, right? Do it now. That's great, Sandy.
Okay, hopefully I'm not going to freeze up. Dan was saying my mic was acting up, but I think it's my computer's being slow, so just, yell at me if I'm cracking up or whatever. What's interesting to me, this whole topic of conversation of just take the first step and just, whatever it takes, little baby steps or whatever it takes, you can eventually get there. And that was kind of one of the things. There for a while, I was doing a lot of tutorial videos showing people how to do this and how to do that on the internet. And I would have people ask me, they'd be like, how did you learn how to do that, right? And, and for me, it was literally, I just would go and play with it and play with it and play with it, and mess with it until I figured it out. And then once I figured it out, then I could show somebody else how to do it. But I didn't know how to do it until I actually started messing with it, right? And and I have to go back sometimes and remember that, because it's just recently I started building our website for the Saturday Morning Mastermind, and I've had a whole bunch of technical stuff that I've had to overcome and learn is brand new, and it's been really frustrating, and I have to keep reminding myself that it's okay, I can get over this. I just got to keep powering through, focus on the things I know how to do, and then mess with the little things I don't know how to do so much, and don't let myself be overwhelmed by what some of these other websites that I'm like modeling after, I want our site to be similar to. I look at them and I'm like, oh my God, how do they get from here to where they are, right? All this frustration, and I have to remind myself that I'm still just getting started with it, and I'm still just learning some of these things, and that it's okay that I don't know it all yet. And so it's like, that's a huge thing. It's just to remind yourself that it's okay that you don't know it all yet. It's okay that you don't know all the steps yet. It's just taking the little steps that you can take and moving forward just a little bit, because I know everybody likes to say, you got to get it done fast, and if you want to make it happen now, and all that kind of thing. But the truth is, we've got as much time as we want in order to make something happen for ourselves. And particularly if you're working on the long game, the long-term goals and things like that, is that what is the saying they say? I'm probably not even going to get it even remotely right, but it has something to do with you can't accomplish as much as you think you can in a year, but you can accomplish way more than you think you can in like 10 years or something. Does anybody know that quote I'm talking about? Anyway, I got it wrong, but that's all right. I'll find it somewhere and post it. Somebody else jump out.
I just want to go back real quick to what Christina was saying about envisioning your future, that can be difficult because like what Sandy was saying, having had all this programming and going through the setbacks or the turmoils in our life, it may have stolen our dreams. We may not have, it may not be used to being able to go back and actually truly consider our dreams any longer because they seem so far away. But that's where cultivating your dream and cultivating your vision really, and being consistent about that really becomes critical. So if you're here listening to this, then that means you have an interest in bettering yourself, and so you need to honor that part of yourself, and understand that this other stuff, these other thoughts that have been, holding you back, they're not serving you well, and it may not even be a thought. It may just be a feeling, because when you think, you're in a position where you can meet somebody that you think might, is so far above you, and your confidence is low. You might tell yourself, oh, I have nothing to fear, but then that feeling wells up inside you. And you need to realize what that is, that it's not serving you well, and that it doesn't mean anything. Because the truth is that you don't have anything to fear when you go to talk to people, and the words will come up, be there for you when the time is right. And just be consistent about it. Keep coming on this call, keep masterminding with great people like this, and that have the right mindset and really truly want you to succeed and reach your goals. So it's so great to be here, and so great to listen to you guys. I'm interested in hearing more about what you guys have to say.
Something that just came to me is, I think a lot of times too, when people don't see results right away, they tend to give up and stop doing what they're doing. Like, say I had written down my vision statement for 3 months ahead, and the 3 months passed, and then nothing happened that I had said. And a lot of people say, well, that doesn't work, I'm not going to do that. But I kept doing that over the past 2 years. Now I change it every month. Like every month I look at what is my month here. What am I wanting to create in my life this month? And I just rewrote mine for August last week. We are in August, right? Yeah. Okay. But when you were talking, Jason, I remembered too, for my move to Miami, I had it all written out, and I had the move, my friends helping me, I had the car ride down, somebody's going to come with me, I had every detail written down of what would be the perfect flow for my move and what I envisioned my home to be here and everything. And there were moments where I doubted it, and I'd be like, oh, whatever, this is so, this isn't going to happen, what am I talking about? And we doubt ourselves, but to keep pushing through and every day I would read it, even if the doubts would come in, I'd read it, and I'd get the conviction back and start believing it more, and it was just I'm convinced that reading that thing every day and starting to believe it more and more made it the most synchronistic, beautiful move ever. It was just so smooth and everything fell into place, and it's because I kept doing it even if I had doubts that day or that morning that I was reading, and then something would creep in well, that's impossible. How's that going to happen? But okay, whatever, I'm going to keep reading it. So just keep going and don't give up, and then you'll just see the things start to flow, and you can look back a year later and be like, wow, look at how much changed because I did that. Even if you're not seeing the little increments of things changing, over time you'll be like, wow. So don't give up.
That's a great point, Sandy, about the things taking time over increments. I don't care what you're doing. It's important to have realistic, expectations of what the outcome is going to be. We do live in a world that's like immediate gratification, immediate success. We want immediate riches. We want everything overnight. But listen, Okay, listen, I've been alive 38 years, okay? So the notion that I got 38 years worth of crap going on and I'm just going to overnight change that is just, it's a little just not healthy to think that way. It takes time to really reestablish things, and I think a great example that one of my mastermind buddies was sharing with me was literally Danny Forts. He was saying literally it takes longer to set up the foundation of a building than it does to get the walls and everything else in on the building. You got to set that foundation, and it takes a long time to get that done. Now, long time is relative. I mean, you can do it in 60 days, you can do it in 90 days. Just understand it won't be overnight. It won't be in weeks. It's gonna take time.
Yeah, and you want it to take time, because you can't just go from. Oh, I'm sorry, Samantha, were you stepping out? No. um, you can't just go. Imagine if you were, back in the pioneer days or something, riding your horse along with or maybe you're on your wagon being pulled by your horse, and all of a sudden, like you just kind of blink your eyes and then you're behind the controls of a spaceship or something. It would really freak you out, I mean, you need that time to like gain the skills, just because you become successful, however you define that, because we all have our own definitions. But a lot of people have what they take a lot of finance into success. But just because you become successful doesn't mean all your problems go away. They might be a little easier to handle if you have more money to throw at things, but the problems become bigger and you need more skills to handle. Like right now, my business is growing really well and I'm getting a little bit flustered because it's like, holy smokes, this is what I've been wanting. And now it's like, I can't keep up. So you have to, it's good that it takes time because you need to build these skills so that when it happens for you, you can handle it. You can handle the new challenges. You can handle the phone calls and the emails and the calls to be on or whatever. You don't want this stuff to happen overnight. You think you do. But going back to colors, colors has been so key for me because I'll hurry up. I know we're almost at the top of the hour. Because it helped me quit judging myself. And when you talk about self-talk, you there's good self-talk and then there's that bad self-talk. And anything you can do to keep yourself from doing that bad stuff is helpful. And one of the best ways I found was to figure out my color personality and find out what really motivates me. Things do have to be fun for me, and I can't get bogged down in all the little details. But I used to beat myself up over that. See, and now I understand that's just part of my personality, and that's okay. I have strengths and I have weaknesses. Every personality color does. And for those of you that are, having trouble getting going, starting, you might be in the green section where you get caught up in all the details and all the information and learning everything. If you're a yellow, you're going to have to motivate yourself around your family and around teamwork and things like that. So really learning those things helps you be much kinder to yourself, which cuts down on that negative self-talk and allows more space for the positive. You can appreciate yourself more and others as well. I'm going to say goodbye now because we're at the top of the hour. So I just want to thank everyone. I saw so many amazing comments coming in over on the page, and I want to go over there and address those after we're done. So just thank you for coming in, especially for commenting.
Yeah, but if anybody wants to go ahead and share final thoughts before we wrap up, jump out.
You're on mute, Jason. Are you guys hearing Jason? We're not hearing you, buddy. I tell you what, while Jason's working that out, my final thoughts is just this. You take just a quick recap on some key points. Be clear on what it is that you need. Surround yourself with good influential external people and stuff like that. Go ahead and make sure that you think about what you would be, the vision of the person that you want to be, and then take a step towards it so that you can start getting some momentum. Go ahead and root yourself in that routine of really feeding yourself that vision daily. And I think you'll be on a path to really turning some things around for yourself.
Jason, we
Sorry,
still
guys.
can't hear you. I'm so sorry.
All right, well, I think we get the point. Thanks, Jason. Sandy, did you have any final thoughts? Nope, good. Yep, yep, yep. Okay, all right, guys. Okay, so awesome. This was an awesome hangout, and I appreciate all of you for adding your thoughts and sharing your insights with us today. And so if you like this video, go ahead and click like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Google Plus, which is the Mindset Mastery Collective. You can just search for us on Google Plus, and you'll find us. Join our community, mindsetmasterycollective.com, and then meet us here again next week at 10 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning, at SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. And with that, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.